Welcome to Thriving on Purpose, the YouTube channel. Hello, beautiful people. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Thriving on Purpose, the YouTube channel, where we share stories of inspiration, motivation, and determination from breast cancer survivors who have overcome the challenges of breast cancer and who are thriving on purpose and making the rest of their lives the best of their lives. And today, I am your host, Emmanuel Cloud. I am a two-time breast cancer survivor, international speaker, and author, and also a breast cancer recovery strategist. And what that means is I help breast cancer survivors make the rest of their lives the best of their lives through sharing their stories. So today we have with us the gorgeous Joanne, and Joanne is going to share with us about her breast cancer journey. So Joanne, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine because I know that we're about to bless some ladies, right? So Joanne, one of the things that I like to do is I like to get into the first thing I always like to ask is the age of diagnosis, right? Because I think that it helps ladies watching relate to us. That's one of the first things that the questions I always get is, how old were you when you were diagnosed? So tell us the age of your diagnosis and the type of diagnosis.
So I was diagnosed at 40. May of 2018 was my diagnosis. July will actually be my 6-year anniversary of my first surgery. So we are getting there. We've passed that 5-year mark. I was diagnosed on my left side with invasive ductal carcinoma. I had found a lump, went in, never occurred to me that it would be breast cancer. That wasn't on my radar. I have no family history at all. My mom passed away when I was 10 from colon cancer, but throughout the years of, all medical professionals had said there's no research indicating that breast cancer and colon cancer had any kind of thing in common. So it never occurred to me that it could be breast cancer. I thought, oh, well, this is a cyst. I went in to see my nurse practitioner, Holly Jones, who I'm in Richmond, Virginia, and she is phenomenal. I went in and saw her, and she says, well, let's, get you in for a mammogram, right? And I had been having mammograms since I was 30, just as a precaution, and went in for the mammogram. Mammogram didn't show anything. Uh, and so they marked it and they did another mammogram and it still didn't show anything. Um, Went back to Holly and again, thank God for this woman, because when I credit somebody for saving my life, it literally was her. She never once said, let's wait 6 months. Let's see what happens. It was an immediate in for an ultrasound and biopsy. And I read people for a living. I think I knew then, right? During that, I think as women, we have this sixth sense when something's happening. And I knew then that it wasn't going to be good, right? And so they said, come back in 3 days, please bring somebody with you, regardless of what the results are. And I didn't, because I'm stubborn and I'm hyper independent. And I knew, I was like, whatever, I knew what the news was going to be. And I said, I have to process this before anything. So I went back by myself and they said, it's cancer, right? And I hear these horror stories of women that are like, it took me weeks to get in to see a surgeon. I was extremely blessed because I was in the surgeon's office within the week. And my surgeon, Dr. Cox, is like an amazing little ray of sunshine. She's just this like little, I mean, she's short, she's probably super close to my age and really optimistic, and I went in to see her and she said, here, we're gonna get testing done first. We're gonna do your MRI, we're gonna get genetic testing done. And funny enough, in my 20s, Holly had asked for genetic testing, and the insurance company, the same one I have right now, denied my claim for genetic testing. And things would have been so much different, right? And so at that point, I had to come home and tell my now husband. We got married during treatment, but I came home and told him. He came with me to the follow up, and Dr. Cox was like, your MRI lit up like a Christmas tree, is what she said. She's like, you have cancer on both sides. It has spread to your lymph nodes. Surgery basically is your only option. And I can remember walking to the car with my husband, hand in hand, and just sitting in the car and just bawling. He's crying, I'm crying because now we have to go home. I have, my girls are older now, but at the time they were 8 and 14, and I have to go home and sit them down and tell them mom has cancer. And as a mom, you want to protect your kids, right? And as somebody who, in their position 30 years ago, I was in that same place, sitting on the couch with my younger sister, with my mom, telling us she had cancer. And so I knew exactly how they were feeling in that moment because they were 8 and 13 at that
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a rough, you know, that initial you have cancer.
Absolutely. I resonate with so many things that you said. First of all, you and I had the same type of breast cancer, invasive ductal carcinoma. My left side was affected as well. Um, and initially, and I know that ultimately they came back and told you that you were affected on both sides, right? And your lymph nodes were affected as well. That hyper independent thing. Oh my God, that was so me, Joanne. And so, for any of the ladies listening, I don't know about Joanne, but one of the things that breast cancer taught me was that it was okay to ask for help. It taught me vulnerability, because much like Joanne, I wanted to do it all by myself, right? I didn't want to bug anybody, right? So tell
Mhm.
me what that experience was like talking to your kids.
Um, Hard. As I was a single mom for a really long time with just my girls before I met my now husband. And so we've always been very close. Um, when the genetic test came back, I tested positive for the ATM gene, which, everybody always hears about the HER2 gene. They hear about the BRCA gene. This was a gene I never heard of. It's a gene mutation that is common in breast cancer patients. But the problem is, I'm a woman who's given birth to two girls. And so the chances that I have passed this gene on to my two girls, and before they're 26, 27, they're going to have to be tested at 21. When they're in their late 20s, when kids are experiencing and having to do, things, they're going to have to make grown-up decisions based on my history.
Mhm.
And so knowing that and having to come home and tell them, for my oldest, she's much like me, right? Like, mom, do you have a plan in place? Okay, you've got a plan. We're going to work with your plan, right? For my little, she got hit worse. She got hit the hardest of all of us. After my very first surgery, she would had night terrors, and I couldn't sleep in the bed upstairs. So I was sleeping on the recliner, and she would sleep on the couch next to me. We just gave up trying to put her to bed because she'd wake up in the middle of the night and come running downstairs just to make sure I was still there. Um, yeah,
That breaks my heart.
yeah. She's an incredibly sensitive kid, and so it hit her worse, and we would space out how much information we would give
Yeah,
her,
yeah,
based on what the next step was.
yeah. I love that. So it sounds like you have some experience in how to have these hard conversations with your kids, especially when there is a gene mutation, right? And prepping them for this is likely what life is going to look like in your mid to late 20s. And these are some things that you're going to have to contend with. So good on you for being able to have those difficult conversations with your babies. I tested negative for the gene mutation. So that
Thank
wasn't a
God.
conversation that I had to have with my daughter. And so I don't know what that's like. So I take my hat or my wig. I take my wig off to you. I took my wig
Love
off
it.
to you and just the ability to have those difficult and transformative conversations so that they know what they're up against, right? And there's no shock, there's no surprise. But the beautiful thing is you get to have that conversation with them and they get to say, and mom is still here. So, it looks good for me too, right?
Yeah.
So tell us about the treatment plan that you opted in for.
So I will tell you that I was the absolute poster child for if it could go wrong, it was going to go wrong. Um, I will credit my phenomenal, mostly female, you know, we're out there, mostly female medical team. But my only option for treatment was the bilateral mastectomy.
Okay.
Because of the lymph nodes and having it on both sides. Um, the interesting thing, I guess, for me was waking up from surgery and finding out that it was a lot worse than they originally anticipated. Because I had two different strains of cancer, which apparently is unusual. um, while I had the invasive ductal on the left side, on the right side, I had the lobular cancer, which is less detectable. And it turned out my right side was more aggressive. I had 10 lymph nodes removed from my right side, 9 from my left. And so chemo obviously was a no-brainer, that wasn't even an option. And halfway, so I opted for implant reconstruction. I
Mm-hmm.
said, I applaud the women that go flat and applaud their courage because I didn't have it. I just didn't. And I couldn't imagine doing that. And so my plastic surgeon here in Richmond, Dr. Blanchet, again, a phenomenal woman with such compassion for what she does in reconstruction. Um, Went to see her. And so at the same time that they were doing my bilateral mastectomy, she comes into surgery right then and she says, we're just going to put these expanders in and we're going to do it all at the same time. Um, Unfortunately, halfway through chemo, I had the red devil treatment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what the actual name of that is. I think
It's
we all just call it red devil.
FEC or FAC, one of them. Yeah,
I think
I just call it the Red Devil too. I had
right.
that one as well.
Right. And it's just such a horrible, that initial horrible treatment of red devil and then Taxol. But halfway through I had this horrible infection over the expanders, and it had a lot to do with the tissue that was growing over the expanders. And so I was hospitalized again, and they had to take out the expanders and the implants. And at that time was told that I probably was not going to be able to be a candidate for implant reconstruction. And so it was kind of, that hits that just keep on coming, right?
Right.
So went back, finished chemo, and my plastic was like, you know, we got enough skin on those expanders that I think we can slip a smaller implant in. Like, she never gave up, never once. And so she met with my oncologist and my radiation oncologist, who he's very popular here, my radiation oncologist. He is very attractive. Uh, and so Dr. Randolph, he works with his son, funny enough. And so whenever you say, "Oh yeah, I have Dr. Randolph," they're like, "Oh, do you have the father or the son?" Because they're both very attractive men. But no, I had dad. Um, and he was wonderful. And he was like, "We've got time. Take the 2 weeks, go ahead and do the surgery." So we went in, put in a smaller implant, did the radiation, and everybody was like, "Oh, radiation is the easiest part." And I was like, "Great, because I need a break." Right? Radiation was not the easiest part. It was not the easiest part. I will say that I would rather go back and do chemo again than do radiation.
Wow. Wow.
Um, and Dr. Randolph was amazing. He had a sticky note on my chart that said, "Watch her skin," because I was supposed to do 25 radiation treatments. And at radiation treatment number 22, my skin burst open. And the burn was just like nothing I have ever felt before. I had it underneath my arms, along my breastbone. Um, they gave me a break and sent me home with burn wash, and I came out of work again, and it was just the amount of pain. And my family's Dominican, and I'm naturally a little bit darker, not by much, but a little bit. And he says, I don't know that you're going to burn, but we're going to watch it. And I don't know that I've ever cried more than I did
Bless
during
your
those
heart.
treatments. Um, and I went back to him and I said, after my break, and I said, I cannot get back on that table. I just can't. And I said, what are the statistically, I've gotten 22 out of the 25. Is this going to make a huge difference if I tell you today that I can't get back on that table? And he gave me a hug and he said, no. And so I didn't.
Oh, yes.
Um, I just couldn't mentally, physically, I just couldn't. And so I had a hysterectomy after that because my cancer was estrogen positive. Um, and for me, I think that was the lesser of all the evils, right? I've already had my two girls. My husband and I didn't plan on having any more children. I was over 40 by then. So I had a full hysterectomy. Was not prepared for the instant menopause. Like the warning on that could have been better. Was not prepared for that. And then I've had some implant revisions since then. My last implant revision surgery was in December of last year.
Okay.
And so, what initially they said it's going to be a year of treatment was not a year of treatment for me. When I say poster child for everything that could go wrong, it literally, I think at one point they were like discussing me all together. All four of my medical team were like, what are we going to do here with her? Um, so hopefully I am done with surgeries and now just on all of those lovely preventative medications that they don't tell
Okay.
you about until after treatment's over.
One of the things that I just want to point out, though, Joanne, is that even though you've labeled yourself the poster child for everything that can go wrong, you're still here and you're smiling and you're glowing and you're talking about this with such a positive attitude, right? And I think that it's just a testament to how resilient we become as breast cancer survivors, right? It's like, yeah, I went through this thing and I had all these things that went wrong, but look at me. I'm still here and I'm still here for my girls. I'm still here for my husband and I'm still here to share this story with other ladies who are coming behind me. So, like, that's all I hear. I hear the resilience in you.
But it's funny. I tell my girls the same thing when we have a setback, when we have, a problem, and I did it through treatment. I would give myself 15 minutes. You get to cry, you get to scream, you get to yell, and then you put your big girl panties on and you make a plan and it's time to move forward. And my girls I've always treated them the same way. You get a bad grade, you get, some boy hurt your feelings, whatever it may be. You get 15 minutes and then you put your big girl panties on and we're moving on.
And we make
It's
I
time.
love that. A 15 minutes to honor your emotions, whatever you feel, honor them. And then let's devise a plan to move forward. I love it.
Absolutely right. Absolutely.
I love it. Okay, so tell me on the this side of breast cancer, now that you've completed your what we're hoping is your final surgery just this past December of 2023. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me, what do you think was your biggest challenge post breast cancer?
Um, Learning the difference between surviving and thriving, right? Because I know that you can attest to this, right? Because we understanding the difference between the two, because that fight or flight mode for me is still very active. That anxiety that you feel before every doctor's appointment, even though I know things are going to be okay, um, is still very real. And during the last, 5 or 6 years, I have always been so focused on the next step of treatment, the next plan, making sure that my girls' feelings were accounted for, ensuring that my husband's feelings, my coworkers, my friends, that I don't think I ever stopped to process what was happening to me. Because as women, we are caregivers, we're nurturers, and it is hard for us to be vulnerable. It is hard for us to stop and take care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think, I mean, I didn't go for the first time last 2 weeks ago. I went to a breast cancer survivor meeting. I'd never been to one. And one of the things I said when I was there was, I'm struggling now to find my purpose. I have been given this second chance, right? I had a friend pass away from breast cancer during my treatment, and I have been given this second chance. What do I do with that second chance? What is my responsibility, right? With this second chance. And so I struggle, I think, with treating the symptoms after breast cancer because we don't talk about that. We talk about what happens during, we talk about the treatment, our doctors talk about the treatment, but what we don't talk about is making peace with the trauma that you went through and how that looks for you because all of our journeys are different and how to get through that and making a conscious effort to live in each moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, that is still a struggle. It is something I am now learning to focus on.
I love it. I love it. The mindfulness piece of it and being
Yeah,
really present, right? Regardless of whatever situation that you're in, whether that's spending time with your husband, spending time with your daughters, being at work, spending time with your friends, engaging with your coworkers, being present in that moment and thankful for every little thing, every little joyous moment that we
right.
get, right? One of the things that you said that really resonated with me, and which is what I do is helping breast cancer survivors uncover the purpose. I just don't believe that we go through this thing for nothing. I don't.
Right.
I do believe that we are meant to share these stories, and just that a lot of breast cancer survivors don't know how. And that's where I
Right.
come in. I want to show you how to share your stories, how to land stages. I just got a message the other day. Hey, we're looking for a breast cancer survivor of color. We want you to come and share your story. Like, so there's opportunities out there to not only share your stories for advocacy and impact, but also income, right? Like, I'm getting paid to take these stages. And I just think that there are so many opportunities out there to share what we've gone through so that we can be that beacon of light for other
Absolutely.
people. And that I believe that that's where our purpose starts. I believe we are purpose, and that's where our purpose starts. But that's just what I believe, Joanne. So I'm gonna get off my
I
soapbox.
100% agree with you. 100% agree. I was extremely vocal on my socials during the journey because I thought if I keep this to myself, then how are people going to know? Like, so you got to share the good, bad, the ugly, right? Like, you
Mhm.
share it. And for myself, being so my family's Dominican, and I think for a lot of the Hispanic population, the language barriers, the lack of availability for treatment, I think for me, it was important to get that out to them as well, so
Yes.
that they are also being represented. Like you said, people of color, we experience the same things when we go to the doctor. Research shows that people of color are not always listened to. We are not always treated the same way. You know, we don't have access. Some don't have access to the resources, and so I think that we owe our own communities a responsibility to share this information and show people how to advocate for themselves. And so while I was being vocal on my journey, I would have friends of friends or acquaintances reach out and say, "Hey, I've just been diagnosed." And if my purpose is for nothing else but to be able to listen and identify and say, scream, yell, vent, because nobody knows. You can say that you understand, but unless you've been through it, you don't
Mm,
understand what it
yeah, you can
means.
try, right?
Yes.
You can try, but nobody's going to understand. I can't get back on this radiation table not one more time. No one's going to understand. My body has rejected these implants. I'm terrified of being flat. What are my options? What do I do next? Not everybody has a medical team or someone on their medical team who is willing to fight for them and never give up the way you did. You know, it's like so many of us are fed, just be glad you're alive, right?
Yes.
But
I hate that. Almost as much as I hate, you have to adapt to your new normal.
there is no new normal,
There's no
right?
new normal. What I tell people is we are more than a pink ribbon and a month in October. Because for us, this is every single day. You
Every
know,
single
I know, I'm sure you and so many other women can identify that first time you have to look into a mirror 6 years later, that is still a struggle for me to look into the mirror. The scars have faded, but your body doesn't look the same.
your body
There
doesn't look the same.
and as women we struggle with that. I know that initially I talked to you about when I lost my hair.
Mm-hmm.
And for women, that was such a, as vain as it sounds, of all the treatment, when I lost my hair, that was huge for me. I mean, I was told maybe after your second treatment. So I had scheduled this party with, a friend of mine at her home, and we were going to shave my head and, practice tying on the scarves. But it happened right after my first treatment. And my
Wow.
poor husband walked in as I'm getting ready for work one morning, and I've got my hair in my hands and I'm bawling, and this poor man has no idea what to do. He grabs a garbage can and some scissors, and he's like, "Let me just help kind of cut out the matted parts." And I remember calling my coworker and I said, "I don't know what I'm gonna do. My hair started falling out. I can't come in today." And she is just the most amazing person. She says to me, "Girl, you have green eyes and a big booty. Nobody is looking at your hair. Get your behind to work. I'll see you in an hour," and hung up on me. If I didn't get up and put on my clothes, Miss Ma'am, I put on my clothes and went to work because
You know, I love your coworker. And one of the things that we were talking about the scarring, and I just want to share a pivotal moment for me that helped me get more comfortable with the body changes is I went to I went to hedonism in Jamaica, which is the new
right.
beach, right? And it was clothing optional. And I'm like out there with my girlfriends. We're on a girls' trip, and they're like, "Hey, let's take our tops off." And I'm like, "Y'all go ahead. Y'all know my medical history. I'm not doing that. Like, I'm good. I'm straight, right?" And I had this resistance to people seeing the scars,
Yeah.
right? And because with me, I got so frustrated with all of the surgeries that I didn't complete my reconstruction. So the left side is still incomplete. It's been 16 years. I never put the nipple on. I'm good with it, right? So, but while I'm there resisting taking off my top on this beach, where everybody is just liberated and free, this woman walks by me completely nude, and she has one arm.
Oh.
And I'm thinking, if she can be that bold, and that braid. Why can't I? Right? So I took the top off. And what was amazing about it, Joanne, is that all it did was start conversations about breast cancer. I got to enlighten and educate women on breast cancer and hedonism, right? And like,
If that doesn't put in things into perspective, like, I don't know what does, right? Like, because that's what we're here for now. We have to empower the women that are coming after us,
absolutely,
to advocate for themselves, to, do what you just did, open these conversations, because they're ugly conversations. They are difficult conversations to have. But
absolutely.
also, we need to share that there is light at the end of this tunnel. And I know how dark it looks in the beginning,
Yeah.
you know, and we celebrate the milestones, right? Like, you ring the bell when you finish chemo, you woohoo when you finish radiation. But one of the funny things for me was when my eyelashes came back. When my eyelashes came back, and the first time that I could put on mascara, I remember posting just a picture of my big eye, just like, you know, I could
Yes,
finally put on mascara. Because we have to celebrate those little things.
absolutely, absolutely. So tell me, Joanne, now what it means to you to thrive. You talked about you're still learning and getting comfortable with going from just surviving to thriving. Tell me what it means to you to thrive.
Um, understanding, understanding that difference, you know, understanding that I now have a um responsibility, I think, to other women to share what happened and what I went through. Um, and also kind of recognizing that our symptoms don't end because treatment ends.
You are
Because I think
speaking my language, Joanne, but carry on.
we it's something that just isn't talked about, right? Like, the medication that most of us are still on for years to come, and the side effects of those medications, right? Um, I'm on letrozole, which we all know causes the joint pain and prevents you from losing weight. And so when you've had that hysterectomy and you're like, I got to get this weight off, like, I gained 100 pounds during the steroid and the letrozole, and I was just miserable, and trying to figure out how to get that weight off and deal with all of the after effects. I
Mhm.
think it comes with thriving. Um, and that understanding, making yourself vulnerable enough to be able to talk about, what happens, celebrating those small moments and those challenges, and learning that this journey is different for everybody. Like, none of our journeys are the same. And again, that we're more than this pink ribbon that they throw at us all October long, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't every day
Every
for
day.
us.
It's kind of like during Black History Month. I'm like, but I'm Black every day.
Yes, right, right. Like, you get February, we get October. No, you're Black every day. I'm Dominican every day. We have breast cancer every day. You
Every
know,
day. I'm a survivor every day.
right?
This stuff is in the back of my mind every day, right? To your
Yes.
point, when I'm going for a check, it's just like I just went the other day for a checkup and she's checking all of my levels and she's like, okay, so this says that everything in your body is normal. There is nothing that we should be concerned. And it's just like this sigh of relief, right? Like, okay, great. Everything is normal, right? Like to just hear that there's nothing going rogue again in
Right,
my body right now is
right,
just a sigh of relief.
right. And that's you making peace with all of this trauma that you've been through. Because until we make the peace with the trauma, right? Until we accept all of those feelings, we can't consciously live for every moment. And we're that's what we're doing now. right? We have to live for each moment. So my girls, one of the very first vacations that I was able to take after, the treatment is what I call the yes vacation. And what that means is you can ask me whatever and the answer is going to be yes, right? Like we have yes days, we have yes vacations because I have to build these memories now for you. Let's overcome the trauma memories and replace those memories with good
Yes.
things,
Yes. I
you
love that.
know?
I love that. Okay. So tell us what, because I was going to ask you how that shows up in your life, thriving, but I think you just shared it, like making those
Yeah.
memories, right? Creating those memories with your
Yeah.
babies, having those yes vacations, having those yes days, replacing those traumatic memories with new memories that we can move forward with, right?
Right.
Like not being, not sticking our head in the sand,
Right.
but knowing, we have this thing over here, but I can create all these beautiful memories moving forward, right?
Absolutely.
So I love
Absolutely.
that. I love that. So tell us what you're up to now, Joanne.
So I'm up to now the same things I did, right? Like I've always said that there is a before cancer me and an after cancer me. And we are not the same person. And the struggle is that you have to realize that you're never going to be the same person, right? Things have happened to you, the trauma has happened to you, that you're not going to be that person. And but so I've always been, I'm a criminal defense investigator. I do public defense here in Virginia. I'm very, very passionate about public defense and representing Indigenous people. And I do criminal law. And so I'm still doing that. I worked all through treatment because, again, my clients shouldn't suffer because I have treatment. Like I need to be there, I need to be in trial. So I'm still doing that. Um, but I have a different perspective now than I did before for them because much like we had our trauma, they are also going through a trauma that I didn't fully understand, at first. And so I approach my clients now on a different level, very much more conscious of how they feel when they leave my office, when we're talking about their cases and stuff like that. And again, I've been in the legal field for 20 years. So advocating for them as well as personally advocating for women and empowering women. I feel like it's a privilege that I'm still here. And part of that privilege means that you need to honor those that are not. And we honor those. I honor my friend who died by moving forward and by sharing the stories and being the ear for women who are just starting their journey, whether it be let me bring you a meal or let me listen or vent to me or let me take you to the doctor.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for now. And I feel a very huge responsibility to do it for those that cannot advocate for themselves, especially in my Latino population where they don't speak English and that to me is important. It's important to get that word out there. And so that's what I'm doing.
I love it. I love it. So I just want to thank you, Joanne, for your vulnerability, for sharing all the things that went wrong, but standing here looking as beautiful as you look, looking as resilient and glowing as you are, right? Like one of the things that I love about breast cancer survivors that I've been interviewing on this channel is just the way you ladies show up, right? You show up in this boldness and this tenacity and this strength, right? And so that's what I love about creating this channel and the opportunity for ladies to share their stories is that I am praying that any woman watching this channel, these interviews that are still on the journey, will look at Joanne's message and say, okay, I'm having this situation where my body is rejecting this too, but there's still hope for me. I'm having this situation where I don't want to get back on this table either. I can ask that question. Like, what if I don't want to get back on the table? So thank you for just sharing and being willing to come on and share your story and be vulnerable. I appreciate you.
Thank you for the opportunity, and to all the women that are watching, whatever stage you're in, you are fierce, you are powerful, you are going to get through this journey and come out on the other side, much like so many of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to Thriving on Purpose. This has been an amazing episode with the lovely and gorgeous Joanne. And if you like what you heard today, please like, comment, share, subscribe to the channel so that you can know when we drop new interviews like these. And again, thank you for watching. Bye for now. And remember, we're thriving on purpose. For more inspirational stories like these, please like, comment, and subscribe. And remember to turn on your notifications. Thank you for rocking with us. And remember, we're thriving on purpose.